Hello everyone, and this is just a quick announcement video to tell you some exciting news. And that is that I just released a brand new writing resource for you all, and I'm really excited about it because it's definitely focused on some of my favorite topics when it comes to writing. And what it is an 8-week email course called Shadow Archetypes, Writing Complex Fictional Characters. So if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that first of all, I am passionate about character arcs, just the idea of transformation underlying story, but also really all of life is endlessly fascinating and exciting to me. And I've written a book about this, Creating Character Arcs, which you may have heard of. And I've also, in the last year, written a book called Writing Archetypal Character Arcs. And archetypes are something I am increasingly just enthralled with and passionate about because I feel like they have such an abundant wisdom and guidance for helping us write really powerful stories of deep import and impact by recognizing and kind of modeling our stories on the important psychological changes and transformations that we all go through throughout our life and over the course of our entire life cycle. So obviously I wrote a whole book about this, so it's something I'm very excited and passionate about. But part of that book, one of the things I talked about in it were shadow archetypes. The book specifically talks about 6 major positive change arcs and their archetypes that we can find throughout the human life. Those are the Maiden, the hero, the queen, the king, the crone, and the mage. But each of these positive archetypes is shadowed by 2 more challenging archetypes, 2 shadow archetypes. One is passive and one is aggressive. So, for example, the hero would have the passive shadow archetype of the coward and also the aggressive shadow archetype of the bully. And that would be true for all 6 of the main archetypes, which means that there's 12 shadow archetypes. And in the book, I talked about this, and I talked about the part of the challenge of each of the archetypal arcs is not falling into one of these shadows and being possessed by them. And we also kind of talked about, how maybe your antagonists might show up as shadow archetypes and how you might tell a negative change arc story by focusing on a shadow archetype. But something I didn't really talk about at the time of writing that book, and that just really became clear to me in the years since, was how important these shadow archetypes are within the actual arc. That you can't have one of these archetypal arcs, the maiden or the hero or the queen, for example, without the shadow archetypes, that they're grappling with the connotations and the importance of these shadow archetypes is foundational to the inner conflict of any archetypal arc. And specifically, just for example, continuing with the hero, specifically it's about overcoming the weakness, the inherent internal weakness that is represented by the passive archetype, the coward in this instance, and overcoming the temptation that is represented by the aggressive archetype as the temptation to basically grab power that you haven't fully accessed or become responsible for, right? Because each arc is about empowerment. It's about growing into that next level of power. But if you're not willing to do the work, then you're tempted by that aggressive archetype. And you do so in a very uncalibrated and unintegrated way, which for the hero would be embracing the power of the bully. And the other part of this, which is equally important and even more exciting, really, in some ways, is recognizing that each of these shadow archetypes offers a gift. And that the only way for the character to fully transform into that next level of themselves is to be willing to face the shadows and take the gift that is represented by them by bringing it out of the shadow and fully integrating it into yourself. And generally speaking, each passive archetype represents our wisdom. It represents that conservative force within us that, is preaching caution and saying, transformation's hard and sometimes dangerous. Do we really want to do this? And that's important. Whereas the aggressive archetype, is speaking to our strength and our power and our ability to level up and take more responsibility in the world. And so turns out it's really important for each character or anyone who's encountering these archetypes in their own life to do a little shadow dancing So that's what this course is about. It's an 8-week course. There's a new lesson, shows up in your inbox every week. And I go in depth on all of this and really explore how to mine the depths of this inner conflict and this inner transformation for your character arcs, no matter what type of story you're writing. Archetypal arcs show up in a wide range of, any type of genre or story. It could be fantasy, it could be romance, it could be political thriller, and you can find these archetypes and identify the themes that they're representing via the transformational challenges that are present in the character's life. And now you can really go deep with this and explore some really fascinating aspects of psychology, both your own and your characters. So I hope you'll check that out. I'll leave the link down below. And again, that's Shadow Archetypes, Writing Complex Fictional Characters. And it's an 8-week email course, which you can find on my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. So I hope you will join me for that. And I will see you again in the next video.